When the world has got you down. And
Alzheimer's sucks. It's an equal opportunity disease that chips away at everything we hold dear. And to date, there's no cure. So until there is, we continue to fight with the most powerful tool in our arsenal, love. This is Love Conquers Alls, a real and really positive podcast that takes a deep dive into everything Alzheimer's, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And now, here are your hosts, Susie Singer-Carter and me, Don Priest.
Hello, everybody. I'm Susie Singer-Carter.
And I'm Don Priest, and this is Love Conquers Alls. Hello, Susan.
Donald, good morning.
Yes. Good
How
morning.
are you?
How are you?
Well, I'll tell
morning?
you how I am.
It's after morning. It's afternoon.
I'm going to tell you how I am.
Good afternoon. Yes. How are you? You're happy.
That's right. I'm happy.
Wow. Well, then I'm happy. If you're happy, I'm happy.
I'm happy. Why am I happy? Well,
Why are you happy?
For a lot of reasons, but for one, a big reason is we actually finished our cut of No Country for Old People. So
Yes.
we have it in the hands of trusted eyes to give us feedback. So I am happy and anxious at the same time because
Yes.
all I want to hear is good things, of course, but we need to be brave and hear what's working and what's not working. So
Yes.
this is a good part. This is like 2 years of hard work, so I feel really good about it.
Yes.
Right.
And
How
so
about-
far, we've heard some feedback, and it's, I would say, overwhelmingly positive. So that's a really good thing. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we sat with the composer yesterday and then spotted the film and to have him put the cues and then start working on the cues. It's all very exciting. It's all coming together.
Yeah.
And
This
we are still trying to raise finishing funds to get it
Oh, yeah,
done.
that.
So anyone who just has extra money lying around, they have no need for it.
Maybe the
Please
guy
feel
that's
free.
gambling in the Dodgers, Don. Who's
Exactly.
that guy?
Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
He could
Joe?
just take that $4 million and just shoot us. It would be completely 100% tax
It's
deductible.
Joe, listen to us.
Yeah.
This would
Joe.
make-
No.
What's his
Shohei.
name? Oh, Shohei. That's what I meant. Did I say Joe? I meant Shohei.
You did say Joe. Yeah.
I call him Joe. We're that close.
Yes.
Yeah. He told me to call him Joe. So, listen, this would totally turn around any kind of bad vibe or juju that's going out there. You put a little donation, which is tax deductible, to making nursing homes a better place to live. And wow, what a great thing, right?
Win-win.
Win-win. And I know, being an athlete, you like that. So let's do
Exactly.
it. Let's get after what is it?
Shohei.
Shohei.
Just call him Joe.
I'll call him Joe. We're so close. We're like this.
Susie, I have a question.
What?
Have you ever seen a baseball?
I have seen a baseball.
Yeah,
I
I've
have
seen
you
a
know that I was on the girls team in high school. I don't throw well, but I run
What
fast.
girls' team was this? Which girls' team was this?
I don't know. In high school.
I'm pretty sure you said you played powder puff football, which is
I
a
did
very
that
different
too.
thing.
I did
Yeah.
that too. I did softball too, Don. I'm very athletic.
I know you are.
I just don't throw good. I say it's because I'm left-handed,
Yeah,
and I throw with
that's
my right hand.
not an excuse.
And
Oh, well,
somehow
that's a problem.
it goes. I do this. I have very good
That way?
form, and then somehow it ends up down. The ball goes
straight down.
I don't know why. And I am coordinated. I'm a dancer.
Yeah.
I'm very athletic.
Yeah.
I cannot throw a ball. I don't
No.
understand it. I don't think it's in female genes. I think I need more testosterone.
Oh, please. Now, come on.
I know you have to release, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, it's a release
Okay.
point, but that's
It's
okay.
a release
Anyway.
thing, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
I do it and it shocks me. Yeah.
I think it shocks everyone who
I think
sees
it shocks everybody. Let's move on from this.
Let us.
Let us move on. Don't we have a
Yes.
good guest today?
We have an
a gue-
amazing
We
guest.
have a part two. We like
Yes.
part twos. That makes us feel good. That means they actually like us and they're coming back for more. That's more of us. And that makes me happy. And especially this person, because we love this person. And
We do.
and this person brings so much to our community, and just in general, just a really great guy. So
I agree.
do you want to introduce him?
I will do that, and I'll do that right now. Known as the senior care influencer, Lance A. Slatton is a writer, author, and healthcare professional with over 20 years in the healthcare industry. A native of Michigan, he is a senior case manager at Enriched Life Home Care Services, a leading care provider. His ingenuity and fortitude led to the creation of All Home Care Matters, an informative podcast and YouTube show devoted to helping families, caregivers, and their loved ones navigate long-term care issues. All Home Care Matters was recently the recipient of the Silver Creator Award from Google and YouTube. Lance also produces and co-hosts 2 additional shows, Conscious Caregiving with L&L, co-hosted by Lori LeBay, and The Caregiver's Journal with Denise M. Brown. And if that were not enough, he also writes a monthly column for McKnight's Home Care News, dailycaregiving.com, and AgeBuzz. Recognizing Lance's contributions to the industry, he was named a 50 Under 50 honoree by the New York City Journal for 2023 and has been chosen as a juror for the Academy of Interactive Visual Arts for 2023 and 2024. And because he apparently has so much spare time on his hands, Lance has now authored a new book, the All Home Care Matters Official Family Caregiver's Guide, a beacon of wisdom meant to guide you through the complexities and emotional tides of becoming a caregiver. We cannot wait to find out more about this new endeavor and everything else in the wild world of the inimitable Lance A. Slatton. So let's say hello to Lance A. Slatton. Hello, Lance.
Hello, Lance.
Good afternoon, Susie and Don. How are you guys?
We are great. We're great
Excellent.
because you're here. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
You're so illustrious and fancy, and you do so much for our community. Like, I'm just in awe of what you do. All the time I think, are we doing enough? Because Lance is doing this now, and he's doing that now. I didn't even know about this other thing. Your visual arts. You're a juror for the Academy of Interactive Visual Arts.
Yeah. We won the award last year. Last year, and we when we submitted it, and then later in 2023, they had reached out and wanted to know if I'd be interested in being a part of the jurors board for the other entries. And I said sure, and it was actually a lot of fun. You know, you get to see a lot of different, creative and visual arts from, different industries and genres, and it was really enjoyable. And they invited me back again this year.
Wow, that's amazing. What is the art is for? Like, it's just explain what it is a little bit more, like in depth. Yeah.
So the Academy of Interactive Visual Arts, they have like the Webby Awards. I'm sure you guys are familiar with those. They have the W3, the Communicator Awards, and some others. And all the awards are like specific to like different types of media. And so like we're a part of the Webbies, the W3 and the Communicator Awards because we do film, or not film, but we do video and audio. So we qualify for audio awards, but then we also qualify for video awards. And the AARP is involved with this. A lot of your major universities, major healthcare systems, insurance companies. It's kind of like a who's who of corporate America, really.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I have so much to learn. There's a lot to know. I don't honestly, I don't know. It's an art to do what you're doing, because I get stuck in my bubble, right, or in my lane, and I think sometimes you can't see everything around. That's also so important in our community. And there's so much that we can be a part of. Like, I'm actually looking forward to the end of this documentary so that I can start, because I love that. That sounds amazing. That sounds like something I would love to do.
And the film should definitely be entered in, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Absolutely.
That would be great. That would be great. All right. So, you, like I said, you've been, first of all, let me just compliment you, because one of the things that you do so well is you engage and connect. You're such a good engager and connector with so many people, and I see, and you don't stop. You continue to do that, which makes the community smaller and stronger. And I love that, because you do it with the right motivation. Without, it's, I think That's the way I view it. I think my barometer for authenticity is highly calibrated, and I think that that's what you do. And I think it's inspirational that you do that, because you always, from the time I met you, it was almost like, is he for real? Because, you're so kind and so generous with your offer to help on everything. And I don't know, I'm sure people tell you how appreciative they are, but we're so appreciative of your help, and that, it's such it's a contagious kind of characteristic to have, and so when, because often people are afraid to be that generous, especially when you're trying to, climb a ladder, whatever that ladder is. And so it's like, well, if they're, if I help them, well, what about me? And it kind of harkens back to my first mentor, my writing, who was a big showrunner in Hollywood. And it was my first big job as an executive. And he said, always give help and never expect anything in return. Always. And that's what you do.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Susie. I don't do it, looking for pats on the back or, any recognition, but I have two things I kind of live by. One, because our family, we're really strong in our faith and real active in our church. And there's a verse in the Bible that I think, regardless of what your background is, what your beliefs are, I think if more people lived by it, we would just have a better society as a whole. And that's, to whom much is given, much is expected, or much is required, depending on the translation. And so, I feel like, we've been really fortunate and blessed with our business and our company, and now, secondary with All Whom Care Matters. And, if we can help other people, I mean, why not, right? And the other thing that I really live by and try to, practice is, when you have a friend and you do something for a friend, you do it with not expecting something in return, because it's your friend. And I just hope, on days when, or the future, whatever the case may be, where I may need something, or my family, or whatever it may be, and somebody would help us if we needed it, or they could help us, in any way, that they would do it without expecting just what's in it for them, and I think especially in the industry we are working in senior care and healthcare, I mean, we're all fighting for the same purpose and goals, I would hope. Mm-hmm. And, our own self-benefit and self-interest shouldn't be what we're serving. It should be those we're trying to help is who we should be trying to serve, like you guys with the film and with Love Conquers All. You're trying to raise awareness from your personal experience, and, same with us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I just think we need to be reminded of it, and at least acknowledge that. And it also feels good too. It feels good to help people, right? I mean,
absolutely.
At the end of the day, like for me, going to facilities and visiting my mom, where you would think, oh, what a drag, I got to go and be with, people who are of disabilities or this and that. I always say now, it's like, if you want to feel good about yourself, go to visit somebody at a senior center. First of all, they're going to tell you, how old are you, 20? They're going and they're going to think, and if you sing, they're going to think you're Barbara Streisand, and you will walk out feeling like $1,000,000, and you made their day.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, that may not be the thing for you right now, but in the future, you might be that person that's wishing somebody would come in and just bring a little, joy and happiness into your life, because you're the one in the facility now. And we need more people like that, who are just giving and trying to lift others up and, improve their day.
Exactly. And you will improve your day. I'm telling you, it's like, it is the best feeling in the world. Like, you cannot feel any better. Yeah.
If we can change the question to what's in it for all of us, then, as opposed to what's in it for me, what's in it for all of us, then everyone benefits, everyone helps each other. And like you said, in the long run, you feel better also. If that's selfish, so be it. So you feel better, wonderful.
That's a good, but that's a good selfish. That's a good selfish, right?
Yes.
So that's a good
100%.
selfish. So, and I have no good segue for this. I was going to go, and speaking of it doesn't even work.
That's
but
terrible.
It's a terrible song. But I want to talk about your book, but because I think that everyone who has seen or listened to our podcast, they're going to know a little bit about Lance, or a lot about Lance, but I think this book is, I mean, it was an obvious next step to me, that you take everything that you've aggregated in terms of, home care and our industry at large and community at large, and you have such a reach to our 53 million caregivers that you would be a great voice and representative of this kind of books. So tell us about this book and how it got started.
Yeah, well, that was a great segue, Susie. Thank you.
Thank you.
My story, I'm going to start there to kind of put it into perspective and context. And I've said this several times on shows and on my own show, my wife and I, we were newlyweds. I was in my earlier 20s, 23, 24. My wife is a couple years older than I. We share the same birthday, which is fun.
Wow.
And yeah. And we also have the same wedding anniversary too, which is even crazier.
Whoa, that doesn't happen very often. Yeah.
We get a phone call one evening, and I'm pursuing medical school. She's done with college. She started her career, and it's a home health care nurse. And we had no idea why they'd be calling us. And my father had sustained a serious fall, and as a result needed surgery, and that developed a very significant wound. And she says, I'm just concerned because he's not able to properly take care of this. There's nothing wrong with my father mentally, nothing physically. It was just where the wound was, it was very difficult to clean, very difficult to put new bandages on, etc. She said, I think for a little while, he either needs to live with family, being us, or we're going to have to look at putting him in a nursing home for a month or so just to get this healed up some. And we said, well, of course, he can come move in with us, not a problem. Well, the wound developed into a very severe infection. It's called osteomyelitis, which is infection of the bone. And ultimately, he had 7 major surgeries while living with us. 7, where they actually had to carve and cut off portions of his tailbone. I mean, just imagine that. And so it got to the point where 2.5 years, this is 24-hour care, 7 days a week. We had to do everything for him. And mostly, and this isn't that my wife wasn't, but again, I said she started her career. I'm dealing with college, so I'm home more and, can pop in and different things. It got to the point where the surgeon has said, he's going to require nursing home now because the infection and the IV antibiotics he's going to require, et cetera. But for that 2.5 years, we were going at our wits' end. It wasn't that we didn't care, we didn't love, but one, we didn't have the knowledge or the understanding of being a quote-unquote caregiver. And we had one of the best healthcare systems in the country coming to our house 3, 4, 5 times a week, never talking to us as the family caregiver saying, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Here's some resources, here's respite and all these different things. And next thing we know, he's going into a nursing home. It was a result of that experience, though, in that 2.5 years of day in and day out care for him and trying to do the best we can to support him and, meet his needs and also make sure his wound is healing and, what have you, that I said, we need to start a company where we send people into the home to help take care of people or give them a break, kind of like what we're going through, thinking I'm inventing the wheel, which I wasn't, but this is almost 20 years ago. And we started our company as a result of that. And everything that's really been done, Susie and Don, has been through the lens of, I wish that I had someone like me when I was back then, but not once. Doctors, social workers, nurses, you name it. Nobody ever talked to us as a family caregiver to offer us any support. And so, writing for these different news sites and, doing our show and having our company, I've always thought, man, I wish I had something to put my hands on back then, or somebody might know of it to say, hey, check this out. And there's other great books out there. I'm not saying this is, the end all be all the books, but I wrote it from the perspective of me 20 years ago and what I needed to know and what I wished I knew, so that it will help other family caregivers. It's a guide from the very beginning to the point where you start, identifying that mom or dad may need help, all the way through to the end of the journey, understanding what hospice is, what it isn't, and everything in the middle. So really, no matter where anybody's at during their caregiving journey, this book could help them and give them some information that will help make it a little bit easier for them and their loved ones.
That's great. So I wish I had that. I wish I
Right,
had
yeah.
that. I say that all the time. I wish there was, my mom's Alzheimer's. So my mom's been gone a year and a half now. So, but she had Alzheimer's for 16 years. So almost as long as what happened with your dad, almost 20 years. And I was caregiving for my mom, whether it was in my home or it was in her home or in a facility. I still was there, and I didn't know what I was doing. And, I really didn't. I was flying by the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get, and the resources at the time were so difficult, like just so difficult to get any real answers, and there was no consistent answers, and this is such a great resource.
And
Donna.
often you don't know what you need to know
Yeah.
until you've
Exactly.
either in it or already done with it. You don't know. It's like you don't know what questions to ask. You don't know
Right.
what's coming. So
Yeah.
something like this, where it's all laid out before you could even start, it's invaluable.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things too that I wanted to make sure to include in the book is also like references and points of interest. Meaning, it's one thing to know how to properly help mom take a bed bath or take a shower or what a shower chair is, things like that. But do you know what a living will is? Do you know what advance directives are and power of attorney and all these different documents that you need to start gathering and putting in one location so that if and when you need them, you're not adding that extra stress and pressure on yourself to try to find and locate them too.
Heck yeah. Boy, don't I
Right?
know that. Boy, don't I
Yeah.
know that. Yeah. And in every state it's different. All of the rules are different. And so, it's a thing. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming.
very
There's so much to
overwhelming.
know. And so to be prepared instead of reactionary is really helpful. I mean, that's the lesson for me. That's what I would pay forward, is like, be prepared as best as you can, even if
Right.
you don't want to hear about it and it's not pleasant and living wills and all that stuff, because when you love somebody it's hard to talk about that kind of stuff, but you have to, right?
You have to. Yeah.
It's even like they say with funerals: do not plan the funeral when you need when right at the time of you need to plan it ahead of time, when you're not emotional, when you're not making decisions based on emotion and no knowledge. Because then you make bad mistakes and errors, and those bad mistakes and errors in this case, when you're caring for somebody, can lead to great harm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And things, and you can't take it back, you can't change it,
Right.
so go on. You were going to say something, Lance?
I was just gonna, to follow up on that. I was just gonna say, you don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry. You're
I
gonna
do.
buy grocery.
I do.
Okay, Don. All right.
But let's call a spade a spade. You're always hungry.
That's true. So that's why, I can't avoid it.
That's a whole nother story. But no, I love that. I'm racking my brain trying to think of it. This is how long ago I was pregnant. But there was that book that all of us read, right? And it was like, this is not this title, but every pregnant woman out there is going to know that what I'm talking about. But it's like everything you need to know about this next journey.
Right.
I can't think of the book. It's like everyone knows it. But that was my Bible. Like, it was by my bed. I read every chapter, every word, everything about it, because it's to have all that information from someone who's lived it. It was actually written by two people that lived it. So it was so powerful, and obviously by the success of that book. But that sounds like the same kind of format that you have.
Exactly. Yeah. I was talking to our friend, Lori LeBay, and, when we were talking about the book and things, and it was just, conversation on the phone. It wasn't something we published or broadcast, but I said, I want it to be somebody's map.
Yeah.
If I was coming to see you and Don in LA, I'm going to use my map when I pull out of my driveway so I know what roads to take. But even when I get halfway to your house, I still need that map, because now I'm halfway there, so it's still showing me the right way. So that's why I say it's really for any and every stage of a caregiving journey for a loved one, the beginning, the middle, and the end. Because just because the beginning is behind you now there's still going to be things now at different stages that you're going to be facing and encountering that you may want to have more information on.
I'm going to take it a step further and say that you're more than a map. You're ways, because
Right.
because you're
Yeah.
not just telling
Good
how to
point.
get there. You're saying the best way to get there.
Yeah, don't take this route, take this route. Yeah,
Exactly.
Because there's
Exactly.
traffic over here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I would say I would use that as a metaphor, because I know, knowing you, that's what you have provided.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that the last thing we need is to, we need all of the shortcuts that we can get.
Absolutely, yes, 100%. I was actually interviewing a former governor this week who had taken care of his wife to the very end, and he just said, it was taking so much out of me, because he was more senior in age now, and he just said, my kids were so concerned because they said, Dad, Mom's condition isn't changing, but yours is.
Yeah.
And you need to start, and he says, and now he's devoted his whole life to advocacy for raising awareness to dementia and to, family caregivers. And, he said more family caregivers pass away or suffer or sustain serious health issues than the loved one they're actually caring for, because they neglect themselves because they think, they're going to be, greedy or they're self-serving. He says, no, it's the complete opposite. You're being strong and you're giving a gift to your loved one because you are taking proper care of yourself.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I always
You have
remember.
tips. Oh, go ahead, Susie.
Oh, I was just going to say, it was actually in my film, My Mom and the Girl, when my mom, was having a kind of agitated experience, and, she stopped in the middle of it and got some clarity and went, oh my God, you got to put me in a home. You have to live your life. My mom, and it's like, my mom always cared about how I was doing, and so when she would have her moments of lucidity, she was always concerned, you need to take care of yourself too. You can't, you have a life. I've had an amazing life. I'm not saying all moms are like that, but I'm just saying that, it was an awakening, because I was running on fumes when she, during that time. And it was so difficult. I remember, I wasn't sleeping. I was and I thought, well, this is what you do. I'm young. I can handle it. My body can handle it. I gained 25 pounds, which was a lot for me at the time. Because I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating right. And, and it adds up. It just adds up. Yeah.
It's a snowball.
Yeah. Do you have specific tips for taking care of yourself as a caregiver and overcoming those feelings of guilt? Because people, as you said, that people do, they feel like they're being selfish if they take care of themselves, which is so counterintuitive to the caregiver.
Absolutely. And I think, to answer your question, yes, there's self-care and, self-preservation, if you will, in the book for the caregiver themselves. But, Don, and I'm sure you and Susie know this analogy, as a family caregiver, myself included, when I was going through my caregiving journey with my father, we're a frog, in the boiling pot of water. You put us in there and it's not boiling, but you slowly increase that heat. You don't realize as it's building up, but if you put us in there when it is boiling, we're just jumping out. But as it's just slowly, it's like that snowball. It just keeps building and building. And, next thing you know, you're not sleeping, you're sleep deprived, you have insomnia, you're, eating junk food because it's quick and easy, and it's, all these things, and it's convenience. And because we got to get back to take care of Mom, and we got to take care of Dad, or whoever the loved one may be. And it's just, with our professional lives, with our company, I mean, we see spouses all the time with Lou Gehrig's disease, or, ALS, or all these different, tragedies, cancers, and, the spouse almost looks worse than the person they're caring, than their loved one, because, they finally get to the point where it's either a doctor or there's a family intervention where they say, you need to get some professional help to take care of her, and you need to start taking care of yourself. You're not neglecting your duties as a spouse or as a son or a daughter, but you need to still be here so you can be a spouse or a son or a daughter. And if you don't start taking care of yourself, that ain't going to be the case. And you really need to just slow down and, regroup.
Yeah.
And that's mentally, physically, spiritually, because it's
All
not
of it.
just, I need a rest. It's it's okay if you find a way to go out for an evening to dinner. It's okay.
Right.
You need those things as a human being. And it's why the mortality rate of caregivers is quite high, and if not
huge.
mortality, certainly very serious illness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And then you're no good.
significantly higher.
Then you're no good to anybody,
Right.
let alone the person
Yeah.
you're trying to care for.
Yeah.
Well-
Stress is the worst in any case, right? So I mean
Absolutely.
it's a silent killer. It is.
It is. It is, because it's not. You don't see it. And it's not that our families don't care or that they're not involved, but they're not there, most of them, for the day to day to see. Okay, you're eating, a Twinkie and a can of Coke for breakfast, and then a bag of chips and a Big Mac for lunch, and then you're staying up to 2 a.m. and getting up at 6 a.m, and you didn't really sleep at all. And these families, they don't have that intimate on scene, on site experiences, and they're just getting the feedback from their loved ones on how it's going, and unless they can really see it and experience it firsthand, it could be very deadly, like Don's saying. There's severe consequences for that.
Absolutely. I want to go back to your dad for a second. And so,
Yeah.
because you guys were so young, you and your wife, and how old was your dad at the time when he became,
Yeah, when
dependent on you?
he was 67.
No, he
Okay.
was young.
So
yeah.
it's relatively
Very young,
very
yeah.
young. So, because I was having this conversation with my daughter this morning, and we were talking about, how do we get people her age and younger to, pay attention to this kind of scenario, right? Because a lot of people, and I'm sure, we all feel like that when we're, in our 20s and 30s. It's like, we're so far from that, we don't have to think about it. It's not, we don't want to think about it. We don't have to, because it's far away. But
Right.
it isn't always far away, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, Susie, I can tell you, in the 13 years that we've had our company, we've seen people in their late teens, people in their 20s, their 30s. I mean, every decade of life, and it's the ones that are in their 20s, their 30s. The teens are horrible too, but just not too long ago, we had a wife who diagnosed with basically aggressive end-stage breast cancer and had no idea until she went in for a mammogram, because she was having some soreness, and it was all throughout her body. Her and her husband just built a house. They're not old enough to collect Medicare. Neither one's old enough to retire. Now you have this on top of it. A 2-income home is now going down to 1 income, and then you have the husband, and understandably he's at a loss as to what to do for her, what's best, and he wants to be there, but he knows he has to continue working. And so, they hire services like ours, and it's tragic. And first thing out of his mouth was, never would have dreamt at this stage of our lives anything like those are the things you can't plan for, but you can at least be a little more aware and attuned, especially for families who have children, making them more aware of it. And just when the children are old enough, and I think I would leave that to the family to decide what the appropriate age is, but have a conversation about, this is what mom or dad wants, if something should unforeseen happen to us, and I just want to make sure you're aware of, so it makes it easier on you when you have to maybe make some decisions for mom or dad, and get those things documented. Those power of attorney, advanced directives, and living wills that we were talking about earlier. You don't even have to include the children in your decision-making process, because it's your decision,
Right.
how you want and what you want. But once those are all in place and you feel the children are mature and old enough to have that conversation, making them aware of it, because if you've done it and they've never been made aware that you have done it, there's a chance it may never get recognized or enforced. And we've seen that too, where again, family in their mid-60s, terminal cancer, and the children had no idea where mom had the advanced directives or power of attorney paperwork at. The attorney mom used is no longer in practice. He retired, and everybody's wondering, what did mom want? What should we do? We want to honor mom's wishes, because mom didn't want to burden the children with that
Right.
conversation. But now in the end, it's actually burdening them more, because now they don't know what they can do to honor mom's wishes.
That's such a good point. I'm going to ask you, so how do you think, what can we do to engage all generations to understand that this is just a conversation we have to have. It's like in school, you know, you learn all kinds of, you know, there's home economics and these kinds of, you know, like sociology and things like, but we just avoid this kind of conversation. What would you suggest?
First, I think having the conversation, just it starts, I think, in the home, having a conversation, because if you know, and I agree, it should be taught in some degree in the schools. And I'll tell you a story from myself here in a minute. But if you teach it in the schools and the kids, you know, middle school, high school, whatever, if they become aware of it, but yet mom and dad aren't willing to engage in that conversation, it's kind of fruitless. Or vice versa. The parents want to engage, but the children, oh no, and you don't have that conversation. They can be aware, but it won't really be that impactful.
Right.
So, you know, one of the things I'm a big fan of is called 5 Wishes. I don't know if you and Don are familiar with them.
No, tell.
5 Wishes nonprofit was started by Jim Toohey. Jim Toohey's a remarkable man. He worked in a couple of the White House administrations, non-political, and he was really impacted by his time as Mother Teresa's lawyer. So he was the lawyer for Mother Teresa. He was the first person to eulogize her at her funeral. And, you know, he went in as a, you know, I don't want to speak for him, but I'm imagining kind of like young brash attorney, you know, going to do his job. And that experience working with her was so impactful that he started 5 Wishes, and these other, Aging with Dignity is the other one. And 5 Wishes is like an advance directive or a living will. Okay. I first became aware of it in college during one of the hospice courses I had to take, where the professor said, okay, one of the requirements for this course is you purchase 5 Wishes. I had no idea what it was. And it was available at our bookstore. It was like $3.95 or something, and it's like a really nice pamphlet, but it's like almost like a book, but you know, like our magazine. And each page talks about wish 1 is this, wish 2 is this, so forth and so on. And it's legally recognized in 48, I believe, out of the 50 states. You don't need a notary, you don't need an attorney. You fill it out, you designate, you know, I would designate Don to be my POA or act as my advocate, and I just put that in the 5 Wishes. But it's not so much just medical. It's if I'm not able to advocate or talk for myself, I want to have soft music playing in my room when I'm laying there, or I don't want music. It's all in how you want to be treated in the event you can't, you know, advocate for yourself. And it's a powerful book, but I think it leads to really good conversations, you know, because it's not all legalese and it's not all medical. It's very social and very, you know, commonplace conversation, but at least it gets the conversation started.
Right. It's individually driven by each person.
Yeah. And you know, it's but I think that would be a good way to start. You know, a parent could get it for one of their children. I know families buy them for gifts, you know, because we're talking, I think, $5, and but you just don't know. I mean, you know, firsthand experience with our company, we see people, you know, 18 years old, got T-boned on their, you know, motorcycle, and now they're, you know, for all intents and purposes, they're, you know, brain dead.
Right.
But they're still being, you know, kept alive because their wishes were to be sustained by, you know, artificial ventilation and things, and, you know, nutrition. But if that's not what you want, that's not what you should get.
Right.
But people have to know. You know.
Right. I love that though, because that seems very gentle. If that was a part of a course, a sociology course, you know, like the 5 Wishes, and you were in high school and it was like, you know, it's that question of like what 5 things would you bring on an island, right? It's that game that right? Yeah. So and you're on a deserted island, what would you bring with you? So it's the same thing. Like if you were in this situation, right? What would your 5 wishes be under these circumstances? I think that's not a bad way to. I like that actually.
Yeah,
like
it's very non-confrontational.
And get people thinking like, well, you know, if you're 16 or 17, it's like, what if you got T-boned, you know, and you were there? Would you want to stay on life support or would you not? I don't think that's too hard of a question. I think it's very contemplative, and I think in a 16-year-old's mind, I think they can handle it because, you know, the odds aren't that much against you, right? So you're really for you. So it gives you the freedom to be able to have a little bit of, you know, bravery to that question.
Yeah. And I think it's very, it's not as intimidating as having to go, you know, to your lawyer and have it drawn up and things. Yeah. Yeah,
I
no,
love
absolutely.
that. I love that. Let's do that. Let's start that in your free time.
All right.
Your free time.
You know, we
We'll
could do 6 wishes and charge $6, and you know, just
There,
saying.
you go.
The
There you go.
businessman. There we go. Broom check. I love that. That's such a great, because we really need to engage younger people, and you know, and get people really back to like a human perspective on life, right? So, you know, I just noticed that with children, even younger children that aren't, you know, exposed to older people are quite frightened for some reason, which is so odd to me.
Right. I think that's society, though, right, Susie? I mean, we all think we're invincible, you know, and to a degree that was part of my dad's issue. You know, he was in the Marine Corps in the 60s, entirely different than how it is present day. And, you know, he was going to tough through it, and I'm not going to stop, you know, and, you know, to his own detriment, though. You know, and I think that's how most of American society really responds to, you know, mortality, is that we aren't mortal, we're immortal, you know, until something, you know, hits us and we can't solve it. You know, I was listening to an interview the other day. This is totally unrelated to healthcare or senior care and caregiving, but this person, very, very smart person, was talking to this gentleman and trying to, like, you know, coerce him into, you know, changing his life and turning it around. And he's like, you know, well, it was a judge actually talking to him, and he said, well, you know, Your Honor, you don't understand. I don't have any money. That's why I'm doing this. I have a big problem. I have a money problem. And she says, well, let me stop and tell you this. She goes, money is not a problem. He goes, well, what do you mean? She goes, a problem is something that money can't fix. If you get a diagnosis of cancer, you can't say, well, here's $2 million, take care of it for me. They'll say, sorry, it doesn't matter how much money. You know, those are real problems. Money,
Right.
you can go work, you can get money, you know, but real problems are health issues. And I think people as a whole, they don't like to look at that because it's not going to happen to them. It's going to happen to somebody else. And they think, you know, well, you know, I'll just fix it with money, or I'll fix it with this or that. And I think that's why they don't want to talk about it, because it makes them face the fact that they are going to pass at some point, and they may not be immortal after all.
Right. Right.
It's something we don't have control over, and
Right.
we don't want to deal with stuff we cannot control. And
Exactly.
and so,
Right.
you know,
Yes.
to get past that and say, well, let's make it the best it can be, that's not an easy sell still.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Right.
But it is. But listen, there's no. I am the poster child for not wanting to die. Like, I was a little girl at 3 years old having anxiety attacks about that. Like asking, like running out of my room,
Yeah.
going to my dad, "What happens when you die, and where do you go?" And I need to know because I don't understand it. And my dad would always go, "You're 3 years old. Go back to bed. Like, you have 97 more years to worry about it." So in my mind, I'd always go, "Well, I've got 80 more years to think about it. I've got 75 more years." And like, I just put it off like that. And, you know, I remember we interviewed one of now a dear friend who had written books on caregiving and going through the last stages with her family, with her parents, both of them. And I interviewed her. I said, well, my biggest fear is losing my mom. Because, you know, I'm scared to death of that. She goes,
Right.
when it happens, you're going to be so fine. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's a beautiful thing. And and I said, you're so wrong. It can't be beautiful. I can't even imagine it to be beautiful. Well, it's now, looking back, it's one of my most precious moments is being with my mom. And I feel proud of myself that I was brave and I was there for her. And I'm proud of her, how she did it, and how she, with such grace, and being there was an honor. And so you know, and I'm the biggest baby there is about it. So I'm going to start crying. If I can do it, anybody can do it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
It is beautiful, though. I tell people all the time, and you get frustrated, you get exhausted, you just get to the end, and but when you have the ability to distance yourself after some time,
Yeah.
I tell them, I said, you're going to look back and you're going to be thankful,
Yeah.
that you were a part of this, rather than regretful that you were a part of it, because not many people get that kind of experience with a spouse, a child, or a parent. And you'll be able to have those experiences and those memories.
Yeah. What better honor, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. One of our interviewees on documentary said, it matters how you're born and it matters how you die. It matters. It really matters, and it's fun. And I'm reading this book now called The Women, which takes place during Vietnam War. I'm thinking about your dad, right? And and you think, and one of the sad parts is that the young guys that were just obliterated, and there's no honor to their death. In other words, no one can honor them. No one was there. They just were ripped out of the world. Boom, gone, and not a trace. And so, and that to me is the biggest tragedy.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And, I'm always very pro, service people and our military men and women, because, they give the ultimate sacrifice. I don't care if they served in a war or didn't serve in a war. They served, and they made themselves available for defending our freedoms. And, I think they should, all of them be recognized and have that, that honor.
Yeah. Yeah. But it
Absolutely.
doesn't matter, though, right? I mean, it matters to our soul. It matters, yeah, it's just so.
Well, and I think, Susie, I think it also matters as a society to how we do treat our seniors and those with health issues and our military men and women. It matters to the soul of this country, right? Not just us as individuals, but I think it speaks to, how we treat them, says how we are as a nation.
Agreed. I think we're ailing in that area severely, and that's it's a sad state. I mean, I just hope that we can get back to more of that less individualistic kind of paradigm,
Right.
And more community, because
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
how we
100%.
thrive. That's how we thrive. We're not meant to be alone. We're just not.
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
And I think your book is something that, this is what it's improving that experience. It's, you're not going to solve the experience, but making the best
Right.
it can be. And that,
Yeah.
and along that comes dignity, not only, for the person, but for yourself too. Caregiving can be a very undignified practice. There's
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
you're doing, especially when you're dealing with a loved one, that are not things that are, you would call
Glamorous?
dignified. Glamorous or dignified. And also navigating that, where is it, like, when is it better that somebody that they don't know is doing this? When is it better that they feel, and that's a conversation you have to have with the person you're caring for, I
Yeah.
assume,
Right.
that
Yeah.
it's like, does this make you feel less comfortable that I'm doing it as opposed to somebody, which can help you make decisions on how they're cared for.
Right. Yeah,
That's a
at
good
100%.
point. That's a good point.
Well, and I would say too, Don, oftentimes when you have families, we're taking care of someone's mother, there's multiple siblings, maybe a couple of sons, a couple of daughters. Usually, not always, but most times it's like the one daughter who's kind of taken in and taken charge. And, they're very resentful about that, and they don't understand why I have to do it. They're doing it and they're glad to do it, and they wouldn't trade doing it for anything. But they're saying, well, why can't my brother or my sister, why aren't they helping? And one of the things I tell them, they may not be comfortable doing that, bathing mom, helping mom go to the bathroom. I said, that's a very uncomfortable thing for a lot of people. And like one brother said, he goes, I will do anything my sister wants me to do. He says, I just can't bathe and toilet my mother.
Yeah.
And I respect and get that completely. So I told the sister, I said, your brother's willing to help. it's okay to ask him. People don't always just step up and volunteer, but they're glad to do it if they're asked. And I said, he's willing to do anything you need. I said, why don't you start using him to coordinate mom's doctor's appointments, have the prescriptions delivered, put together the groceries and have that delivered, help with all these other things while you're doing the more hands-on day-to-day stuff. I said that would take a significant load off of you by helping, just with all those other things that now you don't have to worry about.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways to help other than just, the hands-on.
Hands-on,
Yeah.
for sure. I agree. I would have loved that, because juggling all of it is too much. It can be. It's just tremendous amount of details that you have to stay up on. Well,
It's enormous.
It's enormous. But
And it's very different when there's no siblings, when there's
then
nobody
there's no
else to
yeah.
help. That's a whole
Yeah.
nother situation that
right.
you have to
But
then
that's why
put-
Lance wrote this great book. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. I just thought of the name of the book. What to Expect When You're Expecting. That's the book.
that was the
I
that was
think
the
my wife
pregnancy
had
book.
that book, Susie.
Everybody had it.
Yes.
Everybody had
Yes.
it. All right, I'll go on a limb and say that the All Home Care Matters Official Family Caregivers Guide is the new What to Be Expected When You're Expecting, but for caregivers. How's
But
that?
for caregivers. That sounds
How's
wonderful.
that?
That would be awesome. I just, like I said, I know there's like yourself, Susie, like myself, there's other people out there who had no plans, no idea of what caregiving for a parent or a spouse or a child entails until that day it just happens and now you are that caregiver. And I just hope it will help. Just like Don said, it's not going to solve everything, but it might make it a little bit easier. And that's just what my hope and wish is for people, that it'll just make it easier for them.
Great. I know it will. Is there anything we didn't mention that you wanted to mention? Because I can't believe our hour went by so fast.
Yeah, it's always great. It's especially great to see Don, because I always hear him, but I don't always see him.
I'm always in the background chirping away.
And but it's always great to see the two of you.
Thank you.
And as I've told you a million times, Susie, my kids just think you are a superstar celebrity, which you are. They love the movie Soul Surfer. We probably watch it. I don't know. There's 30 days in a month. I would say maybe 28 of those days we watch it.
Oh my God! Okay, this is I have a surprise for you coming. So just know that.
That's awesome. And but no, I wish you both a nice, happy Easter.
Same to
and
you.
thank you guys so
you.
much for everything you guys are doing. We love and appreciate you both.
Well, we
As we
love
do,
you.
you.
Which is why we do this show. Which is why, Dawn. Why do we do
Well,
it? Because
you know why? Because love is powerful, love is contagious, and love conquers all. So we thank everybody for watching, listening today. Please like, share, do all those fun things that we enjoy. And please, please, please look for Lance's book. We'll have all the information in the show notes. And it's something that everyone needs to have. They should probably, every school should have these and hand them out as as textbooks, because
There you
it's
go.
that important. And
Perfect.
and yes,
and we'll see
so
you next time. So
we
be
will.
good. Have fun this
Take care,
weekend,
everybody.
everybody. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.